watching GVTV News.
Thanks, Gloria, and I'm Randy Hansen. In today's World News headlines, 700 migrants feared drowned in the Mediterranean Sea. And out of Iraq, 90,000 flee as ISIS Islamic Muslim terrorists threaten Ramadan. And ISIS Islamic Muslim terrorists appear to execute 30-year Ethiopian Christians in Libya. An Iranian foreign minister calls for dialogue in Yemen. And in Somalia, Al-Shabaab Islamic Muslim terrorists killed 9 in attack on UN van. And FBI arrests 6 in alleged terrorism probe. And leak shows State Department asks Sony for aid countering ISIS narratives. And tens of thousands protest TTIP free trade deal on Global Day of Action. And in Finland, millionaire austerity proponent wins election. And gyrocopter pilot Doug Hughes speaks after returning home. GVTV News is broadcast on Grass Valley Television Division of Rural Counties Television Network, whose focus is on community involvement. We also air on NCTV. But before these stories, GVTV News would like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us. GVTV News. In today's first world news story, hundreds of people are feared to have drowned in what may have been the deadliest migrant disaster ever in the Mediterranean Sea. As many as 700 people perished after their boat capsized after departing from Libya. Only 28 people were rescued. Warmer weather has increased the number of journeys by people fleeing to Europe from violence and poverty in Africa and the Middle East. Latest tragedy comes after a spokesperson for the International Organization of Migration had already warned the Mediterranean death toll has increased tenfold, from about 90 last year to 900 this year. Joel Millman said, "We're talking about death toll this year that's already 10 times what it was last year, and when you recall what I report, I think 3,179 deaths in the Mediterranean last year. If this trend's to continue, we're talking over 30,000. That's quite alarming." European officials are holding urgent talks on migrant crisis in Luxembourg. In Iraq, an estimated 90,000 people fled the province of Anbar over the period of several days as the city of Ramadi appears to be on the verge of falling to the self-proclaimed Islamic State. ISIS forces have seized towns around Ramadi and lies 60 miles west of Baghdad. Meanwhile, northern Iraq, Kurdish forces backed by U.S.-led airstrikes say they have made progress against ISIS around the city of Kirkuk. ISIS Islamic Muslim terrorists has released a video. It shows execution of about 30 Ethiopian Christians in Libya. Footage shows one group of captives in orange jumpsuits being beheaded on a beach, while another group of captives is shot dead in a different region in Libya. And Iran's foreign minister has published an op-ed in the New York Times calling for a ceasefire and dialogue and resolve the crisis in Yemen as the U.S.-backed Saudi airstrikes rock the capital Sana'a, which is held by Iranian-backed Houthi rebels. Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif writes, "One cannot confront al-Qaeda in its ideology of siblings, such as the so-called Islamic State in Iraq, while effectively enabling their growth in Yemen and Syria." On Sunday, Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei criticized the U.S. foreign policy and said the myth of Iranian nuclear weapons was created by the Americans with the Europeans and others with the purpose of showing Iran as a threat. No, America itself is a threat. American regime is the greatest threat in the world today, with its irrelevant interference anywhere it pleases in the world, without any control, without any commitment, religious or moral, or interference that compromise security. nuclear talks between Iran and world powers resume Tuesday. They don't care. They keep talking to him. In Somalia, the militant group Al-Shabaab, Islamic Muslim terrorists, has killed 9 people in a bombing attack in a van carrying workers of the United Nations office to the region of Puntland. The dead include 4 staff members of UNICEF and African Union peacekeepers. A Kenyan convoy is what it was. There's another German base in the heart of the U.S. drone wars. A new report in the Intercept and Der Spiegel has revealed the U.S. military base in Ramstein, Germany is the high-tech heart of the U.S. drone program. While U.S. and German officials have sought to downplay the base's roles, documents obtained from an anonymous source show the base serves as a crucial satellite relay station, beaming signals from Creech Air Force Base in Nevada to drones over Yemen, Somalia, and other countries. FBI agents has arrested 6 people in Minnesota and California as part of what they say is a terrorism investigation. FBI has provided no details so far. The news comes after a 23-year-old Ohio man was arraigned last week for allegedly traveling to Syria to the aid of al-Qaeda-linked al-Nusra Front. Prosecutors say Abderrahim Sheikh Mohammed boasted of his skills as a government informant and planned to attack military facilities or prison within the United States. Meanwhile, Australian and British police say they have arrested a number of teenagers, including a 14-year-old boy, over an alleged plot to attack a war memorial ceremony in Australia. State Department has acknowledged it's reached out to corporate media executives for help countering narratives put forth by the self-proclaimed Islamic State Islamic Muslim terrorists and by Russia. An email published by WikiLeaks as part of a trove of hacked Sony documents shows State Department official Richard Stengel telling Sony Entertainment CEO Michael Linton that countering such narratives is not something that the State Department can do on its own. Stengel suggested a meeting of media executives to help us think about better ways to respond. State Department web weaver Marie Harf acknowledged the administration has talked with social media and entertainment organizations about its efforts against ISIS. She spouts, "We were very clear that we talked to a host of government and non-government actors about the anti-ISIS coalition. This is certainly a very, very small part of that. I wouldn't draw any big analytical statements from this. We believe people who have platforms who can speak out against ISIS should do that. So, but their content, what they choose to say and they choose to print and what they choose to make in terms of movies is obviously entirely up to them. I think Sony would say the same thing." Other Sony emails from the WikiLeaks trove reveal actor Ben Affleck asked the creators of the PBS documentary series Finding Your Roots to conceal the fact that he had slave-owning ancestry. The film host Henry Louis Gates consulted Sony Entertainment CEO Michael Linton for advice, and ultimately the fact was left out of the film. Gates and PBS say the omission was based on editorial grounds. Tens of thousands of people marched around the world Saturday on a global day of action against the massive free trade deal being negotiated between the United States and Europe. Opponents of the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, or the TTIP, say it would threaten the European GMO restrictions and undermine the health and environmental and financial regulations by letting corporations sue countries in private trade tribunals over laws they claim threatened their profits. Over 600 protests took place the other day. Lots of brouhaha about this one. And yeah, it's kind of true. These trade deals just don't seem to work. In Finland, a millionaire former telecommunications executive who advocates austerity policies has won election as the next prime minister. Juha Sipilä will likely need to form a coalition government with the right-wing anti-immigration Finns party, which wants to expel Greece from the European Union. Justice Department has admitted almost every member of the FBI unit specializing in forensic hair samples gave exaggerated testimony in nearly every case where they testified against suspects. According to Washington Post, a review that found 26 out of 28 examiners overstated forensic matches in ways that favored prosecutors in more than 95% of the trials examined so far. Trials took place over a 20-year period before 2000. They included 32 cases in which prisoners were sentenced to death, including 14 who were executed or died in prison. 61-year-old mailman who entered the restricted airspace and landed his gyrocopter in the Capitol lawn in a protest calling for campaign finance reform says public attention has focused too heavily on his methods rather than his message. Speaking after he returned from Florida, Doug Hughes said money in politics should be the real concern. He said we need to be worried about whether or not somebody can fly into D.C. We need to be worried about the piles of money that are going into Congress. Porter asked him, do you consider yourself a patriot? And Hughes said, no, I'm a mailman. Well, that's it for the world news today. And now another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. That's right, it's time for the police blotter and pictures in the blotter, not from these actual events, but used for visual aid only. These public records are obtained from daily logs issued from Nevada County law enforcement. Grass Valley Police Department on Friday, 9:23 a.m., a caller from a business in 1900 block of Nevada City Highway reported a man asking customers for money and food. He was advised not to return. 11:22 a.m., a caller from 1200 block of East Main Street reported a former guest stole a room key. And 11:26 a.m., a caller from Plaza Drive and Brunswick Road reported trespassing. 11:43 a.m., a caller from 1000 block of Laurel Lane reported theft of clothing and pills. And 12:56 p.m., a caller from 1800 block of East Main Street reported a man and a woman in a verbal argument. She then began throwing objects at cars. 2:16 p.m., caller from 100 block of West McKnight Way reported theft of a white GMC Sierra with a camper shell. 4:16 p.m., a caller from 100 block of East Empire Street reported a man lying in a driveway. 4:17 p.m., a man from 800 block of Old Tunnel Road reported a neighbor was having friends tap on his window late at night. And 4:39 p.m., a woman from 300 block of Manor Drive reported finding a handgun buried in her backyard. 5:33 p.m., a caller from Memorial Park reported 3 women smoking marijuana in a playground area. At 6:57 p.m., a caller from 200 block of Dorsey Drive reported 8 or 12 juveniles went into the woods with alcohol and now they're having an argument. At 8:51 p.m., a caller from 200 block of Mill Street reported the theft of a purse from an unlocked vehicle. Notice the word unlocked. Saturday, 7:38 a.m., a caller from 800 block of Sutton Way reported a man selling drugs in a parking lot. He could not be located. 9 a.m., a caller from North Church and Richardson Streets reported finding a box of ammo. 9:59 p.m., a caller from 200 block of Sutton Way reported theft of items by a former roommate. And 1:44 p.m., a caller from 1400 block of Sedgeworth Way reported finding a 5-year-old girl who said she was alone and that her mother was supposed to be back in 10 minutes. While on the call, the mother returned, but an officer was requested and a report was taken. 5:09 p.m., a caller from 200 block of Sutton Way reported theft of a bicycle. 5:17 p.m., a caller from 300 block of North School Street reported a man refusing to pay for a taxi who said he was going to get money but didn't return. He was located and agreed to pay. 7:57 p.m., a man from 400 block of South Auburn Street reported a possible theft of a box of Triscuits. Subject could not be located. And 8:03 p.m., a caller from 100 block of Valley View Drive reported an assault. Man was arrested on suspicion of false imprisonment, spousal abuse, and criminal threats. 8:21 p.m., a caller from 200 block of Washington Street reported a burglary. 10:03 p.m., a caller from South Auburn Street and Clipper Lane reported a woman hitting and pushing a man in front of a vehicle. And 2:30 p.m., a woman from hospital reported her neighbor assaulted her with a taser. And Sunday, 12:12 a.m., a caller from 800 block of Old Tunnel Road reported a person tried to come in a back window. Man was arrested on suspicion of trespassing and violating probation. 12:58 a.m., a caller from 100 block of Bank Street reported 4 people in a vehicle in a parking lot who had a television on top of the car. And 4:44 a.m., a caller from business 100 block of South Auburn Street reported a vehicle in front of a gas pump for an hour with a man passed out at the driver's seat. 5:03 a.m., a caller from 100 block of South Auburn Street reported a man wearing a helmet with a light on it, riding a bicycle and looking into windows of closed businesses. He could not be located. In Nevada County Sheriff's Office on Friday, 10:07 a.m., a caller from 10,000 block of Banna Lavacap Road reported a residential burglary with theft of jewelry and a basket of coins. 10:42 a.m., a caller from 13,000 block of Thoroughbred Loop reported identity theft on a tax return. And look at that, Lois Lerner. She's going to get away with it, isn't she? 11:28 a.m., a caller from 16,000 block of Scopar Road reported a burglary with front door open and belongings scattered around. 12:17 p.m., a man from North Bloomfield reported theft of oatmeal. He said he had an issue with a man who was an oatmeal eater and who possibly thrashed his campsite. It was found to have been a raccoon. 1:01 p.m., a caller from 16,000 block of U-Bet Road reported trespassers. 1:25 p.m., a caller from 11,000 block of Jodette Lane reported 2 dogs killed chickens. 2:23 p.m., a caller from 12,000 block of Apple Orchards Lane reported theft of clothing. And 2:57 p.m., a caller from Coyote Street and Bloomfield Graniteville Road reported a vehicle accident with a suspect fleeing the scene. The caller was following them and they were currently almost on Brunswick Road. The call was transferred to California Highway Patrol. 4:35 p.m., a caller from 16,000 block of Wide Earp Road reported a lock had been placed in a gate to private property. 5:14 p.m., a caller from 17,000 block of Lawrence Way reported residential burglary with 12 to 13 guns stolen. At 5:45 p.m., a caller from 11,000 block of Wilson Road reported ongoing issues with a person breaking into a residence and storage unit. At 7:05 p.m., a caller from 15,000 block of Rudd Road reported being threatened by a person with a gun. 7:51 p.m., a caller from 16,000 block of George Way reported a residential burglary. At 9:33 p.m., a caller from 17,000 block of Scopar Road reported hearing 6 or 7 or 8 gunshots. 9:36 p.m., a caller from Rex Reservoir Road reported finding 2 broken safes in the area. 10:26 p.m., a caller from Scotton School reported trespassers who could not be located. 11:04 p.m., a caller from 10,000 block of Heil Street reported hearing gunshots. And that's it for the blotter today. Now, another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. In today's local headlines, Nevada City Attorney submits proposal for statewide marijuana legislative initiative. And hitchhiker fends off kidnap attempt. Nevada City Attorney this week submitted a proposed statewide initiative to legalize the use and cultivation of marijuana for non-medical or recreational adult use. Attorney Heather Burke said she and attorney Omar Figueroa of Sebastopol submitted the California Craft Cannabis Initiative proposed on Wednesday to the State Attorney General's office in Sacramento. Burke explained that the Craft Cannabis Initiative is not competing with the larger unified public effort being planned for the November 2016 ballot. Instead, its purpose is to get a rough draft out in the public domain to display the same language and provide a historical record and template. There is a void right now, Burke said. There's a lot of excitement swirling around the people who want to see some language. She said she and Figueroa will decide next week how they will handle petitions and gather signatures. Statewide initiative will require 300,000 to 350,000 signatures to be certified in November 2016 ballot. But since Burke and Figueroa plan to throw their support later to a larger effort, it was not immediately clear how they would address signature gathering. We do support a unified effort in 2016, not a haberdash of vying initiatives, but for now, we want the public to have a tangible language to begin thinking about the issues more critically. In particular, Burke's initiative would offer a lot of support and protection for the craft growers, including some mom-and-pop operations such as those in Nevada County. Their voice needed to be heard in this election, said Burke, who is on the board of the local chapter of Emerald Growers Association, but who is not the attorney for the group. We're offering our language to anyone who wants to use it. Craft growers are defined as those cultivating or using 99 plants or less. If approved by voters, California Craft Cannabis Initiative would legalize 6 plants or less per person for non-medical adult cultivation and use. Legalize 99 plants or less for craft operation and use. Legalize 100 plus plants or more for commercial cultivation and use. Set up a cannabis trademark that craft or commercial growers could use on their products or services. Set up a licensing program for cannabis-related businesses, and set up a California Cannabis Commission that would handle the licenses. Allow for the licensees cannabis privilege, meaning that the license information would be held privately by the grower. Like attorney-client privilege, the cannabis privilege would prohibit disclosure of license information by the Cannabis Commission or other public agencies. Establish a cannabis genome bank to hold DNA from mature plants, and allow for a more streamlined process for forms and fees. Allow craft growers direct access to the marketplace. Burke said the unified statewide initiative effort was being organized through 3 groups: the Coalition of Cannabis Policy Reform, a collection of California groups, National Drug Policy Alliance, and the National Marijuana Policy Project. She said she had no immediate word as to the final language on the effort when it would be released. And for more information, CaliforniaCannabis2016.com. You can also go to cannabisportal.net. That's a little site that I kind of back. It's interesting, lots of information. A woman who apparently had been hitchhiking with a friend and who had gone to a gas station to get something to drink was able to fend off a kidnapping attempt Monday afternoon. 23-year-old woman who was from out of state had been trying to get a ride with a male friend on Highway 20 and Pleasant Valley Road. They both had walked to a gas station on Commercial Avenue about 1:30 p.m., Nevada County Sheriff Captain Jeff Pettit said. The woman's friend had walked back to the highway ahead of her when a man in a truck approached her and said, "You have to come with me." When she refused, the man reportedly kept trying to grab her, grabbing her arms several times. She was able to pull away and ran up the hill to wave her friend down, Pettit said. The man then retreated but did not leave. The woman then waved down California Highway Patrol officer to report that a man tried to take her and gave him the suspect's description. Suspect was located and reportedly admitted to trying to grab the woman, saying that she looked like an old girlfriend. There possibly was some mental health issues, Pettit added. The man, identified as Jason Ronan Black, 43, of Penn Valley, was arrested and booked into county jail on suspicion of attempted kidnapping. He is being held in lieu of a $100,000 bail. And that's it for Wednesday and Thursday. We'll talk to you Friday.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here.